A big hello and a warm welcome to all of you amazing and beautiful people out there. Welcome back to my channel, and it's time to strengthen your solar plexus by listening to Ramayan.
Ram 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 Ram.
In this part, we are going to talk about the marriage of Sri Ram and Sita. In the previous two parts, I spoke about the curse of Shravan Kumar, and I also spoke about how Sri Ram kills Tadka. Tadka symbolizes ignorance. And with the curse of Shravan Kumar, we see that we should not kill any innocent being. Had Dashrath, King Dashrath, not gone to kill an animal in the forest, none of this would have happened. So the life of voiceless beings is precious because we don't know from which direction something bad can happen to us and we can get cursed. In many cases, we get forgiveness. That's Albert. Albert got so excited with this part. When a person enters into the ascension journey, many of them have said that naturally they stop drinking alcohol or naturally they quit eating meat, even though in their programming, eating non-veg food was like very common. And maybe some other people in their household, some other relatives or some family members still do it. But they cannot do it because this is how grace of God works. Once the Mother Kundalini awakens, then nothing can stop you from living a lifestyle which is a true lifestyle, a good lifestyle, whereby you try not to harm anyone. You try at least. Intentionally, you don't try to harm anyone. Now, Dashrath's programming was such, he was a king or he was raised as a prince, so he was thinking in his head that, all of this is fine, going for these shikar as we call in Hindi, and in English it's called hunting. So he used to go for hunting trips back then. Only after this episode happened, Dashrath realized that he should not be involving in this type of hunting activities or hunting affairs, trips to the forest. And we all also listen to this story of Shravan Kumar to understand so that this message is given to other people also. Voiceless beings are innocent. They have no fault. We have so many things to eat on this planet. Why for our entertainment or why for our enjoyment we should kill them or we should give them pain and suffering? Because the curse of voiceless is invisible curse, You don't know from where it will hit you or affect you. When Sri Ram killed Tadka, that time Sri Ram questions his guru that she's a woman, how do I kill her? So in this chapter, number 1, we learn that ignorance is something which Tadka possessed in great degree. She and her sons could have left that life or not lived that life, but they continued the legacy of their father. For Tadka, it was her father, and then her sons, it was her husband's legacy that she was fulfilling or she was living through. She could have stopped right there, but she did not. So sometimes, ignorance is, if you don't know anything, then okay, there is still a chance of forgiveness. But knowingly, if you act ignorant, then it's a wrong thing to do. That should not be done. So we learn that from her story, her part. We also learn that just because somebody is a woman, that does not mean that they can be forgiven for toxicity. Like in today's world, we see that there are so many toxic women, so many karmic women, so many matriarchs who are spreading so much poison everywhere in the environment, in the world. So they should not be forgiven just because they are women. Because women is motherly, women is nurturing, women is kind, compassionate, and women power is also the Shakti of this planet. This planet is a feminine planet. And it is the masculine energy that take care of this feminine planet in the form of Brahma, Vishnu and Mahesh. So my dear friends, now let's enter the part where Lord Sri Ram gets married to Sita ji. What happened, Albert? Where are you? Where is Albert? Albert is up to some mischief. So, my dear friends, Vivaha Panchami is also a festival where people celebrate the marriage of Lord Sri Ram and Sita. And Sita and Ram got married in Janakpur Dham, which is the capital city of Mithila. It is observed on the 5th day of the Shukla Paksha or waxing phase of moon in the Agrahayana month, which is between November and December. The English calendar is of course quite confusing, but as per Vikram Samvat calendar, this is celebrated in the month of Mangsir. The day is observed as the Vivaha Utsav of Sita and Ram in temples and sacred places which are associated with Sri Ram in the Mithila region of Nepal and Ayodhya of India. So Ayodhya is where Lord Sri Ram belonged to, and Mithila, Janakpur Dham is in Nepal. So that's why a lot of people feel that the relationship of India and Nepal is very old, it's very ancient, and it's very beautiful relationship. This day is of great importance in Janakpur Dham in Nepal, where thousands of pilgrims arrive even from India and other parts of the country. So as it is also mentioned in Ramayana that Sita married Lord Sri Ram of Ayodhya, the prince of Ayodhya. At that time he was not the king. So I will now share how this whole marriage ceremony took place and how everything happened at that time. So it is extremely interesting. Let's go back to the time when they killed Tadka, Sri Ram and Lakshman. It was only one arrow that Sri Ram needed to kill Tadka. This is a speciality of Sri Ram. He will give one promise, one vachan, one commitment, one arrow he needed to kill anyone. That is how Sri Ram was. There is no one like Sri Ramchandra. Literally there is no one like Sri Ramchandra, because he is the only person who, despite being a king, called himself a sevak. Sevak means those who serve others. According to him, being a king is not a matter of ruling others. Being a king means you are serving the public. If he was with his gurus, he would listen to the gurus. As a son, he would listen to his father. As a son, he even took the curse, or you can say the punishment of Kaikai. It was literally not a punishment for him because he never did anything wrong, but it was all the deception of Manthara and Kaikai, which we will discuss later on. But he always said one thing. As a husband also, he was extremely loving to Sita ji. But he kept his duty on top. His priority was always his duty. He used to say that once you are a king or a ruler, then you don't have any personal life. I have not seen any other person say that. But the only people, yes, who have followed him and who have created Ram Rajya after him in their respective rulership or their kingly duties, those are the people who have done very well also. And their kingdoms and their rulerships have become really prosperous. All those people who considered themselves to be servant of the society, not the ruler of the society. So whatever his Guru Vishwamitra said to him, he abided by that. It was, in fact, Guru Vishwamitra only who said to him that let's go to Mithila, let's go to Janakpur, because the Swayamvar of Sita is happening. And Sri Ram was like, okay, when I want to go, why not? He had heard a lot about Sita ji's beauty by that time. Vishwamitra himself, he narrated it to him that she's very beautiful and she is a very good person. She's very guni. Guni means she has got many skills and she's very powerful. She's a divine girl. She's a divine being. So it would be interesting to see who gets to marry her, and why don't you try? So Sri Ram and Lakshman went with him. So I'm going to read the story from here, and in between, wherever I will take a pause to explain, I will explain. The following morning, Lord Ram, Lakshman and Vishwamitra Muni and others went towards northeast, heading for Mithila. Gradually, the forest paths gave way to roads that were laid with stone, and then finally they went to the city. The forest opened to fields of crops, and as they came closer to Mithila, they saw beautiful gardens and groves with seats and fountains. The sound of the wind animals were replaced with the clamor of people in the city. So I want to mention over here that Janak was a very, very amazing and wise king. And in his council, in his courtyard, you would see a lot of wise scholars and a lot of wise rishis and munis. Because he gave a lot of importance to enlightenment, education, mental growth. He was like that. And one great quality was that he never differentiated between daughters and sons. For him, he could have also tried to have a son, or he could have thought on those lines, but he had many daughters, and Sita ji was also like a gift. She was a blessing. He did some yagya and yajna, and he found Sita ji in the ground. That is how Sita ji was found. He had a plow and he was running the plow through the ground, and from the ground appeared Sita ji in a casket. So she was the daughter of Mother Earth. That's what a lot of people say. And Janak was like, I am happy with whatever, daughter or son, doesn't matter to me. But he definitely wanted her daughter to have a good husband, to be married to a great man, because he felt that she's such a divine child. She's such a gifted child. She deserves to have a man who's equal to her. A man who can be a match to her powers and her divinities, because she was also born with psychic abilities and powers. So someone who's equal to her, someone who can deserve her. So what is the way? How do I figure it out? How do I find the right guy for him? So in this story, we see that a father is so wise because he could see that he had many daughters, but Sita was, so different and yet so humble. He raised all the daughters equally, but he knew that for Sita, I need to do a Swayamvar. So everyone should learn from Janak to treat every child the way the child is, the quality of the child is. So in the ascension journey also, we are seeing so many people, so many sensitive children or so many gifted children. They face a lot of problem, the empaths especially, because the narcissists are treating them or growing them up or raising them, we should say rather, in the same way that they are raising the other children. And I'm not saying it's a matter of being special or matter of being different. The education system has to be so good, the upbringing has to be so good, that automatically the child develops their skills. Whatever skills the children have, they should be able to develop them, and the parents should accept the child. Whatever the differences in the child are, or whatever way the children are, parents should raise them accordingly. Parents. So now let's enter the next part of the story. So shouting sounds of children and the rumbling of horse-drawn chariots greeted them as they entered the gates of Mithila. Huge elephants swayed along majestically with smiling people waving from the howdahs on their backs. So the horses and the elephants have this sitting arrangement on their backs. So the travelers saw the golden domes of the innumerable temples along with many mansions of brilliant white stones. The travelers here are Sri Ram, Lakshman and the Muni. Along the roadside there were shops that displayed countless varieties of fruits, vegetables and all kinds of sweetmeats. Sweetmeats, or you can say sweets, mithai as we say in Hindi. Other vendors displayed rows of shining gems looking like numbers of rainbows. Everyone called out respectful greetings as the party moved slowly. As they went along further in the journey, the wide and smooth roads, they met kings and ministers and even the educators. As I said, there were many rishis and munis also who were at Janak's palace, and these people were already aware that Sri Ram Lakshman are going to come, because Vishwamitra is one of the sages who was revered and very much respected, hugely respected. Nobody wanted to make him angry, or nobody wanted to show even slight disrespect to him. So Vishwamitra and the prince, both princes, they went inside to the main hallway inside the palace of Raja Janak, King Janak. And people, even before they had entered, people have started recognizing Sri Ram and Lakshman. Now this is not written here, so I'm going to add this part here. People were mesmerized to see them because Sri Ram had divine grace on his face. Sri Ram and Lakshman both. Anybody who would see both the boys, both the men now, still they were very young, they would just be mesmerized, they would just keep staring at them, and everybody was just admiring them. And then, they heard stories about Ram and Lakshman, and there were already predictions about Sri Ram. So people at that time were very intuitive, very learned. They had an idea that, this is Sri Ram. Like we all know about the story, but we are not born in Treta Yuga. So imagine in people in Treta Yuga who had already heard about Sri Ram, or they had heard about Ramayana, they were at that time, in that age or that yuga, people are only working towards their ascension. Most people are born and they are put into the ascension journey, and special education is given to all of the children. It's not like today how children study in private schools or convent schools, and education is all about getting a degree and then a job and then that's it. Back then, education is basically about having a holistic lifestyle. A lifestyle where not only you're earning money, you're generating resources for your family and for the goodwill of society, but even, mentally you're working on yourself, you're doing ascension work. So anybody who does inner work and ascension work, automatically, without doing much, naturally they are drawn to become contributors in the society. And if more and more people are like that, maximum people are like that, so any which way the society will be in a good place. The people are going to be happy and prosperous and prestigious. They will not be beggars anywhere, or thieves, or scoundrels, vagabonds. They won't be there. Homeless people are not there. Not so many, I'm sure. And this is that particular time when people were genuinely very prosperous. So all of the other kings were also there, other crown princes were also there, because they had also participated in the Swayamvar. Shri Ram and Lakshman were not the only one. But everybody was looking at them, including Sita. Everybody was like, wow, who are these people? Their energy was such beautiful energy they carried. So people were wondering, like, who has brought these two princes over here of Ayodhya to Mithila? Obviously, it was Vishwamitra's doing. He was the person who was behind this. Are they also going to attempt to participate in the Swayamvar? Now, what is the Swayamvar all about? Basically, Shiva's bow, Pinaka, was this very heavy duty bow. It was so heavy that no one could easily lift it up. And it was kept in this huge wooden box on top of it, which had many wheels. So if people had to push it around here and there, many people had to push it. One single person could never push it. And this Pinaka bow was with Raja Janak, and it was given to him, passed on to him as a boon, as like a really great thing it was. But surprisingly, it was Sita ji who had the divine power that even as a child, even as a girl child, she could easily lift the Pinaka bow. Easily. Without anybody's help. So obviously when the first time also she lifted it, she used to play with it. It was her, one of her, you can say, I don't want to use the word toy, but it was one of the items she also had. She used to pray to it, she used to worship to it. So to clean it up or to keep it here and there, as a child, she would easily lift it up. And that was kind of shocking for many people. That how come this little girl is able to do it? How? Definitely she is a divine being. Definitely she has supernatural powers and she has God gifts. So this is also one of those reasons how Raja Janak found out. Any which way he found out that she is a divine child, because she came out from the earth, from the soil. That was one very big reason. And then these things started happening. It was followed by these activities. So Janak intelligently decided that since my daughter can lift this bow, no other people can. Human beings cannot do it. And if they have to do it, they have to put a lot of effort in picking it up. So this was the condition of the Swayamvar, that any man who can lift the Pinaka bow, just like Sita can. If Sita can do it, then the person who should be her partner, the ideal partner, that person should also be able to do it. Correct? So that was the condition. Now, so many people were trying. As per the story, lot of kings and lot of princes, they came, they came, and they tried to lift it up. Now in English language, this is the problem with English language. For princess also it is the same pronunciation, and for plural of prince, it's the same pronunciation. So don't get confused. So all the crown prince and all the kings, they tried to lift it up and they were not able to lift it up. And by this time when Ram and Lakshman entered, people were so, happy to see Shri Ram and Lakshman both. But Shri Ram, obviously, because they are so handsome, so good looking. Even Shri Ram, Lakshman, Bharat, Shatrughan, all of them are also divine children. They were EBs, which means extraterrestrial biological entities. I know this term will not be available anywhere else. But see, this is the magic, or you can say the blessing of my masters, that they have given me such terminologies also which are not given to other people. So it is all their doing, they get all the credit. So Sri Ram, Lakshman, Bharat, Shatrughan, they were born after a big yajna was done, a big yagya was done, and at the end of the yagya, a divine being appeared in front of all of them and offered them the kheer, milk pudding made from milk and rice. In some cultures, in some stories, they say milk pudding was given, and in some places, mango, they say mango was given. So the one who ate more mangoes, she had 20 children, 2 boys, and the others had one child each, one son each. So definitely they were also divine beings, and it gave people this intuition that maybe he is going to do it. And even Sita, when she saw Sri Ram, and she had already heard about Sri Ram, she also was very happy to see him. Inside her heart, she were all the butterflies in her mind. She was like, he should do it. She was happy. But there was also a little bit of anxiety before this happened. But it was Janak who was very much troubled, because when Janak saw that none of these powerful kings are not able to lift the Pinaka bow, who is going to do it? Who is going to marry my daughter? What if my daughter does not get the correct match, the right person? Is this Swayamvar going to end just like that? So he was very upset, he was very troubled, very worried. And Vishwamitra could sense his emotions, he could sense his feelings that Janak is so troubled right now. When he saw them, he personally came out to greet them. He was accompanied by priest and his intelligent, knowledgeable counselors, sages, rishis and munis. And he fell at Vishwamitra's feet, like to greet him. And he was so happy to see him. And then all of them went into the palace. So then Sri Ram, Lakshman were given the seats. Vishwamitra was given the seats. All of them sat down on the golden seats. Then the king washed the feet of the sage Vishwamitra. And the ceremony continued. Once all these formalities were completed, it is said, now as per the story, a meal was offered to all of them. So once these greeting formalities were completed, they went inside and they sat on the seats. And it was a beautiful setup. The whole palace looked beautiful. The ceremony was beautiful. There were silver rugs, silk rugs, ivory tables, silver dishes, gold dishes. People looked so beautiful. Everybody was dressed so beautifully. So it was a great ceremony. It was going on for days. So a big festival was being celebrated. It was a festival, and later on when they get married, in India and Nepal, people still celebrate it till today. I wish I can show you guys Ayodhya, and hopefully if I go to Ayodhya, I will make a vlog and try to show you whatever I can of Ayodhya. And this also proves that everything about Ramayana is authentic, because these places still exist. The palace exists. It has been converted into the museum. So hopefully we'll get to see it, all of us. Let's hope. Fingers crossed. So yes, now he was very blessed by their presence, and he then asked, who are these 2 boys? The word was out, but Janak did not know it that well. So who are these divine boys who are accompanying you? They look like powerful tigers, and they are looking like gods who are so beautiful and full of grace. And what brings them to my house? And these boys have weapons, because they were carrying their divine weapons, and now they have more confidence because Vishwamitra has taught them well. And they have killed Tadka, they have killed Subahu, and Marich was already gone somewhere. It is also said that after getting hit by or getting punished by Sri Ram, Marich had actually become his devotee. He had started chanting Ram Naam, and this is also being narrated by my own master, that he would listen to the word Ra, and that Ra sound would remind him of Ram. So Marich was sitting at the ocean and he was chanting Ram all the time. But later on he was forced by Ravan. It is said that he was forced by Ravan. Whatever he did before that, he did it willingly because he was a demon. He had the demon blood and he was obviously used to disturb the Rishi Munis a lot. Marich and Subahu had a very horrible nature. Every time the sages used to do the yajna in peace, they would appear over there. Sometimes they had power, so they would like disappear. They would be flying in the sky, and from the sky they would throw pebbles and stones and trees and branches and all of that to trouble the yagya. Because these demons or demonic creatures always enjoy troubling divine beings or good people in general. Anyone who's in ascension journey. So I'm going to tell you this, guys, if you are in the ascension journey, negativity is bound to follow. Some or the other person who has got a lighter energy, they will get possessed by some or the other demonic creature. Some demonic agent will become heavy on them and they will try to trouble you. They will try to stop you from doing your inner work or your practice. So you don't have to get depressed or troubled by them. Don't get troubled by them. Even if they try to trouble you, you just continue to do your ascension. If someone tries to stop you, you forgive them. You forgive them and you ask for power and energy. Sometimes you would have to be a little stern with them. Sometimes you have to ignore them. Now that all depends on context and situation. Whatever the situation demands, you have to do it with utmost sincerity and whatever the best solution is at that point in time. But you have to go back to your ascension process or ascension journey or whatever inner work you're doing. So then finally Vishwamitra told him about the boys and he said that they had just disposed the Rakshasas in the forest and we were just coming back from killing Tadaka and Subahu, and Marich is gone somewhere. And Raja Janak was so happy to hear that. Albert is really enjoying the story. Albert, you're enjoying the story? Yes, he is. Should I continue? Or should I keep scratching your head? Scratching, I call it shring. Yeah, come here. Albert wants to play with me. What? You want to play? And he also likes to talk in his cute language. I have noticed one thing, that all of my animal companions, they really enjoy the Ram chant. They feel very peaceful and they love the vibes and they also enjoy listening to Ramayan. Even in therapy sessions, they are like very calm and composed. They're like listening to everything that's happening. So I feel that voiceless beings, they understand everything, and I don't know why they're called voiceless. There should be some other name for them. I think furry babies, furries is a better name. But yeah, we call them voiceless, even though they are better listeners and they are excellent in communication. So Vishwamitra by that time had still not told Janak. He said that they are here for the ceremony and they are here to see the famous Pinaka bow, because Sri Ram was also a devotee of Shiva. Just like Sita ji, he also prayed and worshipped to Shiva. Janak heard that. At this time, King Janak is thinking that these boys are sons of Dasharath, and they are from Ayodhya, very powerful kingdom and very powerful king. And they are also crown prince, and Ram is going to become a king in the future. He's the crown prince. So nothing can be better if the alliance with Dasharath's son happens, But if only Ram can pass the test, the Swayamvar's test. But as a participant, he was very young. He was one of the youngest. So Dasharath was still a little worried and anxious. He did not know what's going to happen, if he can pass the test or not. But after Vishwamitra said that he's just killed Tadaka. Tadaka was a demoness that everyone feared and nobody wanted to mess with her. So he heard all of that and he felt that maybe at this point, he was still thinking. Now there was Satanand. He was Janaka's head priest. He spoke to both the prince, and after welcoming them, he started to narrate the story and the history of Vishwamitra. Now we know that Vishwamitra had already told Ram that, you can also go for the Swayamvar, you can also try to win the hand of Sita, but the whole confirmation has still not happened. He was a great ascetic. He knew Vishwamitra very well, and having previously spent time with him in his hermitage, he said, and he was very inspired to speak about his glories. And looking at the beautiful faces of Ram and Lakshman, who were captured by his speech, the priest told the story of Vishwamitra. Vishwamitra had performed many difficult asceticism for thousands of years. Okay, one more thing I want to tell you guys, that back in those days, people lived very long. They had very long lives. It was not like today, where people die in just a few years. Back then, people used to live for hundreds and thousands of years. Because at the time of birth, if you start practicing, you start doing inner work, by the time you are in your late 20s and mid 30s, you are still seen as a person who is practicing mysticism, ascension, doing inner work. Automatically your thinking pattern, your lifestyle is not going to be like the other people, the asuras. And that not only enhances your beauty, your youth, inner work makes people very young. If you read the book, The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari, same thing is mentioned. But these are people who belong to the societal norm where inner work is a must since childhood. Everybody goes to the Gurukul or they are homeschooled and they learn all this. So people lived very long. By the time they are 100, 200, 300 years, they are still doing inner work. After completing inner work, then they will do certain things. Sri Ram was obviously a divine child. Sita ji was obviously a divine daughter, divine child of Janaka. So at a young age only they had all these gifts. But some of the people, they used to work and do inner work. And Vishwamitra was also a king. Vishwamitra was also a king. But he became a sage. He became a Muni. He was blessed by Brahma to become a powerful Muni. So when Satanand finished this astonishing tale of Vishwamitra, everyone was awestruck by Vishwamitra also, who was sitting with the prince, both the prince. And his mind was absorbed in the thoughts of the Supreme Lord. This is the time when Janak approached the Muni and with joint palms like this, which we do namaste like this, right? He said that, I stand blessed by your appearance, O holy sage. This account of your many glories has filled my mind with wonder. Indeed, I could go on hearing it again and again, but dusk has now fallen and I beg your leave. Let us meet again in the morning and it will be my great delight to satisfy your every desire. So in Valmiki Ramayana, this is a very interesting place, a part, because actually Ram and Sita, they look at each other or they have that moment where they glance at each other before this ceremony, the Swayamvar takes place. Ram and Lakshman stay there. Now they've already looked at each other. They were already in love with each other because for them it was destined, it was divine plan that they will get married. And in such cases, people have experienced an out-of-body experience, they felt an out-of-body experience. And a lot of people also say that marriage also feels like an out-of-body experience because it is pre-written. I'm talking about really beautiful, pure marriages. When you see the person in a glance, in an instant, you know that this is the person you're going to spend your whole life with. But Ram and Sita, when they looked at each other, they were totally mesmerized. They were full of smiles. And if you ever watch Ramanand Sagar's Ramayana, that particular episode is really nice. It's very beautiful. If you ever get an opportunity, you can watch it with subtitles also. Just in case you don't understand Hindi language, some of you. A lot of you, in fact, I know that. So they say, okay, why don't you guys rest in the evening, in the night time, and next morning we will commence the ceremony and we'll see how to take it from there. Please stay here. Basically, Janak did not want to interrupt the story of Vishwamitra. He was just thinking, how do I make these people stay here? So if they stay here tonight, then I will have extra time. We can all talk to them and these boys can also rest and they can all spend little bit of relaxing time. They're coming from a very far off place. They've just killed the demoness and her son and they've been traveling. They're also travelers. That night, Ram, Lakshman, Vishwamitra, all of them rested, and in the morning, Shri Ram is in the garden. He's just there, Lakshman is there, and Lakshman had a very beautiful relationship with Shri Ram. He could joke with him. He was a bit mischievous also. That's how he's been portrayed. So he said, let's go, brother, let's go for a stroll. Let's just check out this palace. Is so beautiful. There's a beautiful garden also. And in the same garden, Sita ji was there with her sisters and her friends. And there they saw Shri Ram. And there they were like, oh, he's the same prince who was there in the palace yesterday. And he's the same man. These two boys, everybody in the crowd was mesmerized by them, by their presence and how good looking they are and how nice they are. So it's not just about the looks, how graceful they are. So this is also where, for a few brief seconds, Ram and Sita, they look at each other. In some places, this is what written, and in some other places, it is said that after the evening time, Sita ji had gone to the temple of Parvati ji. She used to worship to her, and she had asked for her blessing. She had said that, please give me a good husband only. Please, mother, give me the best husband. So she had gone to the temple because in her heart, there was this feeling that, I wish he could be that person. I wish he wins the Swayamvar. He wins my hand. So that time, it is said that Lakshman and Ram were strolling around the garden and their eyes just met, or they just sort of came in front of each other for a couple of seconds, and they were both mesmerized by each other's beauty. So love was in the air, you could say. Finally, the ceremony started. He told the story of the Pinaka bow. The bow belonged to Shiva. Shiva was angry with other gods when they had denied him a share of the sacrificial offerings that were made by the sages. With this bow, Shiva had threatened all those other gods, and he had said that I shall now sever your worshipable heads from your bodies. Stand ready on the battlefield if you have any valor. So this was a feared bow. Like if Shiva comes with the Pinaka bow, it's dangerous, very dangerous. So the gods were definitely very scared of Shiva's wrath. So they relented and they quickly worshipped the infuriated, angry Shiva, and they managed to appease him. And that's when he gave up this bow to them, to all those people. So this is the same bow, the same famous bow which was given by the gods to Janak's ancestor, Devrat, after he had fought for them in a battle against the demons. Sometimes it is said that when the gods and the divine beings, the deities used to fight against the asuras, the demons, some of the human kings also participated in those battles because some of the humans are also very powerful. So Devrat had fought along with them against these demons, and they were very happy by his courage and his fighting skills. So they said, you deserve this particular bow, you keep it. This is how it came into their family, and since then it has been kept in the Shiva temple and it has been worshipped as if it is not the Pinaka bow but it is Shiva himself. So then Janak continued speaking to the sages, and all the other people were present, the prince, who were listening with great curiosity, and he said that once I was performing a sacrifice to please the gods in order to get a worthy successor in my line, because I told you he did not have sons. As the sacrificial ground was being prepared with a golden plowshare, a wonderful child appeared out from the earth itself. This female child, who became known by the name of Sita. Why Sita? I'll tell you, because in the morning grass, if you ever wake up early in the morning, I hope some of you do, you can see that there are dew drops on the grass, and it is also very beneficial and very healthy for your eyesight if you walk on the dew drops. So Sita, Seet means dew in Hindi language. So Seet, from the word Seet, from the word dew, the name Sita was given to her. This wonderful child, Sita, she grew up in my palace as my daughter. Her beauty is matchless. I have raised her with all my love, and I will give her in marriage whatever to whosoever who can show exceptional powers like her or prowess like her. Various rulers and princes have approached me and they have asked for her hand. And look at all these kings, they have set a great standard for winning Sita's hand. Whosoever can hold the string, can hold the bow and place the string. So every bow has a string. This bow also comes with a string. So if you can place the string on the mighty bow of Shiva, the Pinaka bow, you will win the hand of my daughter Sita. And many kings try to bend the bow or put on the string, forget about picking up the bow, they could not even move it. As the king beheld Ram's beautiful features, his powerful physique, and noble bearing, he longed for the prince to pass the test and become his son-in-law. He stood before Vishwamitra with folded palms and said, "Come now, O sage, bring these boys with you." That particular part of the palace where the bow was kept, it was stored in an iron chest. 300 powerfully built men were required to move this bow. That's what he said. And the bow was on the chest, as I told you, on top of the chest. So please, do the deed. Now there were many people who were waiting. Gods have not done it. Demons have not done it. Yakshas were not able to do it. Gandharvas were not able to do it. Kinnaras were not able to do it. This is an ordinary man. Ram, a human being. How will he do it? But it was actually Ram who was sent for this. He bowed down in respect. He walked towards the chest. He walked around it. He looked at it. He looked at Vishwamitra, who nodded at him like, "My blessing is with you, son. Attempt it." So he turned to Janak and he said, "I wish to attempt your test. So I shall now try to lift this heavenly bow to gauge its weight and strength." A good archer first will always check the weight, and accordingly he is going to bend it and put the string on. While being extolled by Vishwamitra and other sages who uttered "Victory, victory, victory," they started screaming. They raised slogans. Ram placed his hand upon the bow and there was complete silence in the hall. There were so many people who were there. Janak held his breath because Ram stood motionless. Vishwamitra knew the extent of Ram's power. He already knew this will happen. From the balcony, Sita ji was looking, a little bit of height, she was looking at this whole scenario. She had a garland of flowers in her hand. She obviously felt natural attraction for the prince. Until then, she had never been interested in any of her suitors. She never believed that, anyone is for me. But when she looked at Ram, she felt that yes, he is the one who could deserve me. To the gentle Sita, they were all arrogant and overly proud of themselves, all the other people who had attempted. And Sita was also very spiritual. All her life she had prayed that Vishnu should become her husband. She is also reincarnation of Lakshmi. She wanted someone like Vishnu, and Ram is a reincarnation of Vishnu. As she watched Ram approach the bow, she felt her love for the Lord being awakened. Was this Vishnu himself? Becoming absorbed in her loving sentiment, Sita felt anxious. Would Ram be able to string the bow and become her husband? She thought. She held the matrimonial garland with trembling hands. Suddenly, Ram seized the bow by its middle part and raised it high above his head. A gasp of astonishment filled the hall. It was inconceivable. Ram tossed the bow slightly to gauge its weight, placing one end of the colossal bow on the ground. Ram then moved to the other end and strung it. He pulled the string and bent the bow round into a semicircle, and that's when it broke. Yes, it broke. So Ram actually managed to break the Pinaka bow. Just imagine. The Pinaka bow broke suddenly, and a sound of the crack or the crash of thunder reverberated around the hall. The earth shook as if there was an earthquake. Everyone was stunned and there was silence for some time, for some moments. And Janak was amazed. He was like, wow. He was so happy. He looked at Vishwamitra and he said, "I have now witnessed Rama's strength. His achievement is incredible. He has secured Sita as a wife, and Sita now belongs to Ram." But still, Janak being Janak, he respected the women so much. He looked at Sita and he asked, "Do you accept him, my dear daughter?" His eyes were filled with tears because surely Ram was a divine personality. There was no doubt. A bow that such powerful kings could not move, Ram handled it as if it was a piece of bamboo. He gestured to Sita and his wife, Sita, who was surrounded by female attendants. Janak turned to speak to Ram, who stood there peacefully. He said, "I shall now fulfill my pledge to give Sita's hand to the one who has now broken the bow actually, but the one who was supposed to string this bow. Sita is dearer to me than my own life. But I am going to gladly give her hand her over to you. Sita came down from the balcony, and despite all of this, he still asked Sita, do you accept him as your husband? And Sita said, I do. She had a beautiful garland of golden flowers in her hand. She was wearing beautiful sari, beautiful jewelry, and her golden trinket, her ankle trinket and her diamond earrings were swinging to and fro. So I did like the detailing of this particular blog, and that's why I thought it would be nice to read from here. She smiled gently and she lifted her eyes, looked at Ram into his eyes, who caught her glance. They both felt their hearts moving. There was some movement, some vibration. It was obviously love. In that moment, their union was forged. Sita's father signaled her, and she went and stood in front of Rama, and she placed the garland around his neck, indicating that she has accepted him as a husband. She blushed. She kept her eyes down. She walked slowly and went back to her father, who felt as if his heart is going to burst with happiness. The king wanted to perform the marriage ceremony as soon as possible, so he asked for Vishwamitra's permission. When the sage agreed, the king arranged for swift messengers to go to Ayodhya and inform King Dasharath. So you see, the Guru has the authority, Guru has the power to choose a partner also. In Indian culture, our Gurus have really great place, even bigger, even higher than parents. And parents obviously have to respect the Gurus also. In today's world, because of so many false Gurus and false prophets and false masters and godmen, self-proclaimed godmen also, some of them are in jail right now, they have spoiled the images of Gurus, and some of them have even broken the trust of common people. So many common people revere Gurus, and because of some of these people, in India also and even in West, I have seen the same thing happening. Because we all want to have union with God. Everybody wants to live a godly life. But back in those days, this never happened. It was very, very rare. Rarest of the rare chance that a Guru is going to be like that. So all Gurus, all powerful Gurus and sages, they had great authority. If a Guru says this is the right person for you, you marry this person, the student or the disciple will definitely do that. Definitely, 1000%. Here also the same thing happened. So the ministers of Janak left immediately and arrived Ayodhya after 3 days. They quickly went to the palace and they were ushered into the presence of Dasharath, who appeared to them like a powerful god. Put at ease by the emperor's benign expression and gentle words of welcome, the ministers politely told him of the events in Mithila. The emperor was delighted to hear the submission of Janaka's envoys. Ram and Lakshman were well. They had conquered over the demons, and more than that, Ram has now won the beautiful Sita as his bride and Dasharath's daughter-in-law. Dasharath recalled how he had been contemplating the marriage of his son even when Vishwamitra had arrived at his palace. So, telepathically, maybe Vishwamitra found out the sage must have been sent by providence. He feels like God must have sent the sage. After consulting with his counselors, Dasharath made up his mind to leave the next day, made his mind up for the Mithila's journey next day. Taking with him his ministers and preceded by a party of priests, Dasharath went the next morning towards Mithila with his army marching close behind. They arrived after 5 days, and as Dasharath approached Janak, he was graciously received. He had brought abundant riches as gifts. Janak also embraced the emperor, and the two old friends sat together discussing the wedding, the whole ceremony, and what had happened in the Swayamvar. This is when Janak also told Dasharath how Sita had appeared from the earth and how he was told of a prophecy. The prophecy was, what was the prophecy? Let's hear it out. Once the celestial seer Narad informed me that Sita is Vishnu's eternal consort and that he would one day become her husband in this world. I thus devised a test which only Vishnu can pass. Your son has now passed that difficult test and must therefore be Sita's eternal husband. Dashrath was again astonished to hear about Ram's divinity, because Dashrath is seeing Ram as the son. He is not seeing him as Vishnu. He still found it hard to believe, having raised Ram as his child. He looked at his son, who stood before him modestly with bowed head and folded palms. Dashrath was overpowered by love. His loving sentiments overcame the thoughts of Ram's divinity. The emperor looked again at Janak and said, I approve this marriage in every way. Perform the ceremony under the guidance of learned Brahmins. O king, the success of a gift depends upon the way it is given. Therefore, be sure that all necessary rites are properly observed without any loss of time. Dashrath wanted to ensure that the marriage ceremony was performed carefully according to the spiritual codes. He did not want any ill fortune created by neglect of sacred rituals. What I really enjoyed in this discussion is how Dashrath, after hearing, that my son could be Vishnu's reincarnation, totally ignored it and just kept admiring his son, because Dashrath was so much in love with Ram. It is beyond imagination. He really loved Ram. In his past life also, he did lot of tapasya so that Vishnu would be reborn, or Vishnu would be born as his son. He doesn't remember of that, obviously, but he's just admiring his son, because he had not seen his son for many days, for many years in fact. He was just thinking, oh, this is my boy and he's now married. He's so emotional. He was not thinking about the prophecy and all those things. He was like, okay, maybe Janak feels like that. Great. Finally, this marriage was completed and Janak had issued instructions to his ministers. Both of them listened as Vasinoha recited Ram's family lineage. After hearing of Ram's ancestry, beginning with the sun god, Janak recited Sita's genealogy, describing his own ancestry, which began with Brahma. So when Janak finished, Vishwamitra spoke. He suggested that Sita's sister Urmila should get married to Ram's brother Lakshman. The sage also advised that Janak's brother Kushadhwaja should allow his two daughters to marry Bharat and Shatrughan. Then it could be one ceremony for all four marriages. So all four brothers got married to the four sisters in the same ceremony. Finally, rising from his seat with joy, Janak said, let it be, as in let it be so. Like in English we say, so be it. So let it be so. Again and again, he kept saying it. So be it, so be it, so be it. He was so happy. He fell prostrate before Vishwamitra and said, forever I am going to be your servant. Your words are worthy of my worship and I stand commanded by you. He was so happy. Here he wanted to marry one daughter and he was so worried and anxious. And now all his four daughters are getting married with such wonderful boys. He could not have asked for a better gift actually. Let the wedding take place tomorrow, a day marked by favorable stars. So then the two kings sat talking together. The sun gradually set in. Janak took his leave from Dashrath and departed for his personal quarters, flanked by his ministers and 100 warriors. Thousands of golden oil lamps lit up in the halls as the crowd of Brahmins made their way out, all of them constantly uttering auspicious Vedic hymns. The following morning, Dashrath rose early and performed the first ritual for invoking good fortune. He had his four sons brought before him and then gave to the Brahmin priest 100,000 cows on behalf of each of them. And the emperor also distributed gold and gems to the thousands of munis who had assembled in Mithila to witness the wedding. The four princes got dressed up and they were all looking so handsome, effulgent youths. Dashrath was shining like Brahma himself, surrounded by the celestial guardians of the four quarters. There was a huge pavilion and it was crowded with jubilant people who cried out all glories to Ram and Sita. Hundreds of Brahmins were present, so many people were present and so many beautiful musical instruments were being played as expert singers were singing the praises of the couples. Dashrath and his four sons approached the sacrificial fire which was tended by Vasinova, and when they were seated, they saw Sita and all the three princesses entering the arena. The princes' minds were captivated by the beauty of their wives-to-be, who were adorned in beautiful jewelry, ornaments, as if 4 goddesses have descended from the celestial realm. So then, as how Indian marriage ceremony proceeds and the marriage took place, Janak stepped forward, speaking in a voice choked with emotion. He said, "My dear Ram, I now give you Sita, my own beloved daughter, to be your assistant in all your religious duties, all your kingly duties. She'll always remain exclusively devoted to you and will follow you like your own shadow. Take her hand in yours and accept her, and I bless you both." Then same procedure was followed by all 4 boys and husbands and their wives. So people were very happy, and even the gods and goddesses were watching this wedding. Even the gods and goddesses were participating in this wedding, and they were watching from above. Celestial flowers rained down upon Ram and Sita. The entire assembly of onlookers erupted with a shout of joy. Both Dashrath and Janak looked with tearful eyes at the newlywed couples. Ram's complexion, resembling a celestial emerald, contrasted with the pure white features of Sita, fair features of Sita. They were both covered with golden flower petals, and their many jewels shone brightly and brilliantly. As they walked hand in hand around the fire, Sita looked down in shyness, while Ram smiled at the loudly cheering crowds in the pavilion. Each of Ram's 3 brothers, one after another in order of their seniority, took the hand of one of the other 3 princesses. Lakshman was united with Urmila, Bharat with Mandvi, and Shatrughna with Sutakirti. The 3 effulgent princes, holding their brides' hands, went around the sacred fire along with Janak and many sages. Cries of happiness filled the pavilion, while the gods played their celestial drums. Bevies of apsaras danced and Gandharvas sang. The sages recited Vedic text, and the blast of conch shells was heard everywhere. All those present in the assembly were lost in ecstasy. The ceremony ended at midday, and the kings and princes gradually retired to their tents and their camps, headed by Dashrath, Janak and 4 newly married couples. The following day, Vishwamitra, after taking permission from both Dashrath and Janak, left for the northern Himalayan ranges. Janak bestowed upon his daughters a dowry consisting of hundreds of thousands of cows, an equal number of elephants, horses, chariots and foot soldiers. The king, whose wealth was virtually unlimited, gave away millions of pieces of clothes and cotton textiles and silk saris, tens of thousands of hand-woven carpets, heaps of gold, silver and jewels, and hundreds of richly adorned maids for each bride. So this is where I will take a pause, because the marriage ceremony is completed. The story will move on, and I will continue in the next part. I hope you enjoyed the wedding story of Shri Ram and Sita, and I really enjoyed reading it. I love Ramayana, and listening to Ramayana heals your solar plexus. It's really one of the gifts of gods, I would say. It is one of the greatest epic. So everyone must listen to it, and you must chant the name of Ram as much as you can. Now, before I pause this particular session, I'm going to talk about Parshuram, but I'm not going to talk about it in this part. I will speak about it in the next part. As per Ramayana, as per different versions, sometimes you will see Parshuram appearing after the marriages have taken place. And in most cases, in maximum cases, we witness that Parshuram appears immediately after Sri Ram breaks the bow. Parshuram is also reincarnation of Vishnu, another reincarnation of Vishnu. So I want to talk about that episode or that part in detail. Whenever he appears, whether he appears right after the marriage or whether he appears immediately after Sri Ram breaks the bow, which is what I have also commonly heard, but as per this particular blog page or this website, the mention of Parshuram happens later on. Once the whole wedding is complete, then Parshuram appears. However, what I have read and what I have heard, he immediately comes right after Sri Ram breaks the bow, because he is connected with Pinaka bow and he is also a devotee of Shiva. So he cannot tolerate it and he wants to just do something about it. So I will talk about who Parshuram is, why he appears over there, because these are the important things, and what is the interaction between him and Ram and Lakshman, because this is also where we see how intelligent Ram is and how intelligent Lakshman also is, and how sometimes powerful people also need to bow down to another powerful person, and this is exactly what Parshuram will do. So we will discuss that in the next part. Thank you so much for being here with me. I will see you soon One love, peace out, and Jai Shri Ram. Actually, we should say, Bolo Siyawar Ramachandra ki Jai.